It's very simple, and anybody can do this. You guys can do this. I'll walk you through it. And, my feeling is that one of the reasons why I changed the name of the show to Nourishing Peace was because as I've been reading through old books, by traditional healers, traditional elders, I realize that there's some traditions that are out there that have been tainted by these powers that be that don't have our best interest in it in mind. So there's just been so much infiltration and so many streams of information that we have to go with our guts to figure out what is true. And so instead of calling my show The Traditions of Peace, because there are traditions that I've been reading about, and I will share them on a different show, because I've come across some really amazing information. There's traditions that have been kind of twisted to support the continued suffering of us Earth people. And both in Mexico and here in North America, and as we know, all over the world. But so this Waters of Forgiveness ceremony was passed on by some native Cherokee elders, and this is for anybody. It's a giveaway ceremony, so anybody can practice this, and you can do it any time of year. Basically, what you do is you go to a body of water. Could be a stream. It's nice to have a clear stream of water to do this at. And basically what you do is you go to the waters and you thinking about something that you need to either forgive yourself for, or forgive others. So it could be anybody. It could be people that you don't know. Maybe you've been manipulated by unseen forces, or and just forgiving ourselves for being weak or for being vulnerable to that, because we're always starting with ourselves. So forgiving. So what you do with the water is you go up and you have this intention of forgiving ourselves, forgiving our family, any relationships we've been in that have been harmful. And you take the water, you go and you kind of splash water over your shoulders 7 times. So you just take your hand and you dip it into the water and you can splash it over your shoulder. It doesn't matter which one. It could be first the right, then the left, over your head. So you want to, and so that water has the potential, since we're setting the intention, of bringing this forgiveness into our lives so we can be more fully who we are without all that guilt or the blame or shame that has been laid on us by trauma and things that, we might have been able to not get trapped in, but they're so tricky. They know how to trap us. So we're just continually splash that water over. So it's 7 times, splash it over your shoulders, And so we sang that song, the Nibi Wabu song, which is affirming that the life force and this sacred waters, the sacred nectar, is flowing through our bodies at all times. So it's what creates life. It's what creates our thoughts and our projections of love and safety. So that's the ceremony that we did yesterday. And so I'm just sending out all those prayers to you guys and to People for People Radio and all the other people around the world that are working together to help to hold our hands out to other people who might be suffering or feeling the effects of long-term trauma in our lives. Because I think that's what we're doing here on People for People Radio. People are really sharing their wisdom, their meditations, their expertise. We've got probably the best mathematician and economist in the world on our show here. So if you're new to the station, you want to check out the tab to the right. It says Current Pod section, there's a lot of really good podcasts of people who are just sharing their wisdom and sharing their hopes and dreams and how to get through this time. It's a really difficult time. And so thanks for coming into the chat room, everybody. It's nice to have you here for the support, and thanks to Vanessa and Guise and to Red there for producing. If anybody has questions, you can put them in all caps to Vanessa, and she'll make sure I get the question. We'll just stop. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about the garden today and nourishing ourselves and symbols that get twisted, okay? So I think I'll just start off with the symbols. I've talked about this before, about the peace sign and how, I don't know, my husband, he's really into the runes, like old Scandinavian runes, and they have them from Germany too, but the peace sign was originally what's called the Hagas rune, and it's like a circle. The design you could practice by getting a pencil and just drawing this down, what I'm going to tell you. So you draw a circle, and inside that circle you're going to draw an X, a big X filling the whole circle, and then it's like two triangles joined at their apex on above and below. And then you do a line from the top all the way to the bottom. And if you took away the top V, or the part of the triangle that's on the top, you would have the peace sign left. And that's the line in the middle with the two legs coming down. So originally that peace sign was what we call the Hagas rune, Hagas, and that is a balanced symbol. So if you get a pencil, draw that circle with a big X inside the circle and a line straight down from the top to the bottom. And you can see if that was a human body, the image would be of somebody with their legs firmly on the ground and their arms stretched up to the heavens. And so there's that connection in total balance of above and below, okay, in balance. So that line in between is the man or the woman, completely connected to our spiritual sovereignty and our means of nourishing ourselves on the earth, right? So what happened, and so we're all figuring all this stuff out. I'm not saying that this is written in stone, but this is what makes sense to me. So what happened with that peace sign was they took away our connection with the sky, with our spiritual nature, or with our connection with God, if that's what you want to call God, or higher spirit, or angel, the angels. So we were lured into or tricked into believing that we only the only thing that we could really connect to was the earth and sort of drudgery and working, right? Working. So we're like, our attention is only down onto the earth, which there's nothing wrong with that, because work is good. The earth is good. Growing food, being connected down, having roots is good. But it's not good to be relying all the time on quote unquote spiritual liaisons to God, like priests or, deacons, people who make us feel like they're more connected to spirituality than we are, right? So that's what we all grew up with. At least I did. Probably a lot of you did too, with religions. With these figures that are, made us believe that, we were evil, there's nothing, we don't have a spiritual connection, that we have to go through this religion. And so that peace sign was left for us hippies, freaking hippies, right, Angel? That peace sign was left as a symbol to keep us anchored in slavery. I mean, that's how I'm interpreting it. Because we, at the same time they were creating this slave planet where we're only allowed, we got the CEOs and the big corporations and these rich people, the priests, the police, all these people above us who were in control and laying down the quote unquote laws that we have to obey. Those are people who have assumed this sort of lording over energy over us. So that's, if we had that symbol as a complete symbol that represented us, then we would have our own connection, and the laws would be what we know to be true, which is supporting life, taking care of the earth, taking care of the sky, planting our own food, being connected to the earth too. So there's the sky, the connection with the up and the down. So we got, I have a problem sometimes when I hear people talking and spiritual stuff too, where, up is good and down is bad. Okay, there's heaven and hell, right? That's what I got taught. I don't know who's calling. Somebody's calling into the Skype room there. So, we all got scared into believing that, if we do something bad, that we're going to go to hell. And that's down in the earth. It's dark. It's scary. It's evil. We're going to burn up in hell, and they've been burning up California here. They haven't done it this year. So I'm just giving thanks that we haven't had any fires. But last year it was a complete war here. So I just like to reiterate that about that symbol, because part of, I think, stepping into the paradigm where we're taking back our existence here, we're taking back it on all realms. So we're taking back our connection with the spirit and our connection with the earth, with our food, with nourishing. So I changed the name of my show to Nourishing Peace, because the traditions that I've been reading about, some of them have been so twisted, and I am going to talk about that on another show. I'm going to write it all out or do a real complete show on what I found. So as we take back our connections with the earth and the sky and the elements, these symbols actually, they're really important. They're really strong, and that's how come they have given us all these symbols, so that they can imprint their design, their wishes of design, because they're not going to design us. We're way more powerful than them, so it's never going to work. Might look like it's working, but it's not. So taking back these symbols, and we can all do this. We can look around and see and just use our own discernment in our own brains, because we're so very, we're much more intelligent than them. They don't have any brains. They don't have imagination or compassion or empathy. They don't have feelings. They don't have this connection with life that we do. One day I picked up these hitchhikers. They were so cute, this young couple, and she had these little dreadlocks, and she had all these little peace signs woven into her hair. And so I had about a 15-minute ride with her. So I got to download this information to her. I asked her, do you know about the peace sign and what that means? And she kind of, well, yeah, so I told her what I just told you guys. And she got so excited. She was going to have them changed, and she's going to start using that image and of the connection with the divine above and below. So I just feel like they have been trying to manipulate our brains and our consciousness through symbols, through ideas and concepts of above is good, below is bad, light is good, dark is bad, positive and negative, even those terms in our speech. And I catch myself too. I'm learning how to unhook from their attempts to control us through symbols and language myself. So in the natural world, in the scientific world, positive and negative, they're just two polarities in the whole. It's like the yin and the yang. So the positive polarity, electrical polarity, is generated by streets and cars and pollution and toxins, things that are man-made that are not very healthy. They're not very life-affirming. I mean, streets are important, things are okay, but we need that balance. And so the negative pole in polarity, in terms of science, of the positive and negative polarities, the negative is generated by trees and rivers and water and nature, the ground, the earth, moisture. So by having us keep saying, we got to get rid of the negative, let's just be positive. I know people have good intentions, and it's just like people working in, for Bechtel or, just to make money to feed their families. These people, we all have good intentions, but we also have to wake up and see what the hell we're doing and what we're saying. So it's just a gentle reminder that we can start to change our language and the way we speak about reality, so that we're not always saying, like, I got on the internet the other day and there was this thing like this music. It says, get rid of all your negative energy. I'm like, well, what's that? That's like, get rid of all the feminine principle in your life. That's not okay. Let's just bring the balance, polarity, the balance. It's important for life. And get rid of the judgments of dark and light. I have in my bloodstream, my family lineage, I have, European blood. I've got Native American blood. I've got African blood, because I'm, was born here, and in Mexico, there was a huge influx of different cultures. So I have actually French from my Mexican side and African from my Mexican side of my family. And then the Chinese medicine in Chinese culture, if you study their medicine and you practice their medicine, then the ancestors, they hold you in their lineage, so you are part of them. So I don't know. I guess I have this inherent in me where I feel like none of it is bad. We don't have to blame China for stuff or get into these political this and that, good and bad, Trump, and, it's all like there's something that feels really good to us, and that's nourishing life. Okay. Yeah, passive. Yeah. So Angel has a question saying, are you saying that women are negative? Well, no, I'm not saying that. Oh, yes, I am actually, but negative is not bad. So there's a positive and negative poles, right? And just traditionally in science, or in the yin and yang theory of Chinese medicine, the positive pole is usually up, right? It's up in the sky. It's the sun and the stars. And then the negative poles is down in the earth, which is the soil, the plants, the roots, the waters, the streams of water that are down in the earth. So, and also attributes to masculine and feminine energy, which neither one is good and neither one is bad. It's just what they are. But so, if you're, sorry, I'm stuttering here. So the negative polarity, if we take away the judgment from it, yeah, that's the feminine. And the positive polarity, taking away the judgments of good or bad, the positive is the masculine force. So we got that yin and yang that's totally balanced, And this is one of the reasons why they're pitting men and women against each other. They started that whole feminist movement, which, I don't want to get too far into that, but, and I even at one point, I remember feeling like, that part of the reason why they allowed or they perpetrated the clergy to be, abusing sexually and causing so much trauma to children and other people in the clergy, women and men, boys and girls, was for us to start hating the Father. Like, oh my God, this priest did this to me. I hate that. I hate God the Father. I hate that principle because they're oppressive. Okay, the patriarchy. Well, that was perpetrated by that same stream of consciousness of trying to rip us apart as or I'm going to say the word humanity for lack of other word, but men and women, that yin and yang. In Chinese medicine, when the yin and yang split, that's what happens when people die. Okay? So we don't want that to happen. That's what they want. They want it. I mean, it looks to me like they're trying to kill the planet. They're trying to pull us apart physically, each one of us, and pull us apart as men and women, helping each other out, doing what we love doing, helping each other out. So let's see. So, yeah, there's some talk in the chat room right now about women being passive and dominant and bossy and stuff. I mean, men and women can both be like that. But it's kind of like watching the news. We just keep watching these same stupid stories happening over and over and over. I'm not sure if these shootings are really happening or if it's a hoax, or if those guys are being mind controlled to make it happen. Maybe it really did happen, but maybe not of its own accord. There's so many things that are being manipulated. And so if we can just look at our own language ourselves, we don't need anybody else, any experts to tell us how to think or how to analyze things. We have the power to do that. So, my thing is stay away from the TV. Positive, negative, cats love positive energy. They like being around like EMFs and leaky, they like to climb behind the TV and stuff, if you've noticed that. And dogs like negative energy. They like to lay on the ground. They like to be closer to the negative polarity. I'm not saying good or bad. It's just what they're attracted to. So, anyhow. So there was a really cool, in my planting calendar that I told you guys about before, the Stella Natura. So you can find that online. It's it's a biodynamic planting calendar. And this month's article it was really beautiful. The impulse of life is both branching up, like surging upwards, at the same time it's surging downwards. So the life force is connecting with the sky, with the sun, and that urge to just be warm and be connected with the wind and the things that are out there above us. At the same time, there's this surge of energy going down, which is just as good. It's not bad. It's not hell down there in the dark earth, right? It's dark down there. You can't grow roots in the light. So this whole light and dark thing too, it's just a construct, and it's over and over and over trying to split us up and make one good and one bad. So this is imbued in our language, in our colloquialisms, you can call it, like talking about positive. Be positive, don't be negative. Well, if we were all positive all the time, we'd be dead, okay? If there was light all the time, we'd be dead. We would fry, okay? So this is a really beautiful article that talks about, because I think he had a dream, actually, this guy who wrote the article, about sort of slipping into this other realm where he could understand the growth of a plant and that feeling of just being totally alive and expanding both up and down and getting his roots really strong and healthy in this healthy soil, and how important that is. I mean, anybody who gardens knows that you can't just focus on that part of the plant that's up above the ground. If you do, you're not going to be a very good gardener. Your plants will not grow very good. I know that because, I started off once and I wasn't a very good gardener. But over the years, you realize that just as important as caring for that up part of the plant that's out in the sunshine and the light is caring for the roots that's down in the dark. And there's nothing wrong with the dark, okay? That is a probably Christian, I don't know, or concept of good and bad, feminine, masculine, and, maybe that's why they killed all those women during the Inquisition, is trying to, lay this imprint on us that women are witches, they're bad, they're evil, they're like healing people with herbs. But it wasn't even us, though, really. It wasn't that men and women, it was like it was a weapon to split us apart, not only just to kill us, but to split us apart. So that's why I just really like coming back to this subject, because it's about coming whole again, coming together again, and remembering it's not like we've even been separated. It's just remembering that we're whole. And yeah, so Red's talking about loving the sensation of walking through the woods as the light goes down. And so, yeah, you're in that juxtaposition between day and night, and it's so beautiful. So on this weekend, I was sleeping out. One night I slept out under the stars. I didn't sleep very much, basically because I didn't want to miss the stars. I got to see, the Milky Way and all the stars up there in the dark sky. It was so beautiful with the pine trees, the silhouettes. And so, if it wasn't for the dark, I wouldn't be able to see those beautiful stars, right? And if it wasn't for the light, we wouldn't be able to feel the peace of the nighttime, So it's, I just like to really come back to that point, because as we start to look at our own language and our thought patterns, we could start to release some of their hold on us, because it's a huge one. It's really huge. And that idea of the peace sign too really embodies that whole principle of, the light, or the top parts of reaching up to the sky, to God, is for certain people, right? And we have to stay, even though down is bad, that's what we're staying, right? Trauma, bad things, down on the earth. Not true. So taking back those symbols, it's us. We are divine beings. We are completely connected with the sky and the earth. And that's our natural, our birthright, to be connected and to be satisfied and to be nourished in a good way. So, okay. So that's why, one of the reasons why I changed my name to the program to Nourishing Peace, because we want to get back to that nourishing of the wholeness, both of us, or on both sides, the men and the women. So we're nourishing each other, nourishing ourselves. And one of the things that brought me around to that too was that I realized that I was feeling definitely, whenever we do anything, us as men and women, we were taught to doubt ourselves and to feel like, oh, I'm nothing. I don't have anything to say here. Why would what I say have anything, important to put out there in the world? But we do. We're all so important, and each one of us is just as important as anybody else on the planet. That each of our voice is important. Everything that each of us does is important. So, I just wanted to, put that out. Like, I hope you guys are taking good care of yourselves and nourishing yourselves, nourishing the peace within you, because it's there, And another way that we can look at that, when I was little, I grew up in a place where there were really old growth oak trees, and they were so beautiful and big, and I think they were never cut down before. They were really old and big, huge oak trees. And I had heard that the oaks, and I think any tree, what is above ground is equal to what's down below. So it's like a mirror image of the tree above and the the roots below. And so I've always had a really strong connection with oak trees, and trees in general. I was raised Catholic in a mixed family, so there's a lot of tensions. Plus, I think we were being targeted because my mom and dad were both really activists, and they were very spiritual, kind of outside of the box people. So I'm pretty sure we were targeted in the 70s and stuff, and possibly they even killed my mom. But just walking up into the hills and being able to connect with the trees, I think really saved my life. I really thank those trees for being there for me when I was little, because I felt like they communicated with me. There's a story that one of our elders here tells. He was an orphan when he was little. He was a Karuk elder we're in Northern California here. And when they came here to this valley and, of course, took all the land away from the Indians and set up ranches, and they had an electricity plant where they were burning trees and generating electricity or something. So both of his parents were working there, and they got killed when he was just a baby. And there was a lot of alcohol brought into the communities, to the native communities, so to mess them up. So the people would just drop groups of kids out in the forest so that they could go off to work. And so our elder Charlie, he told me once that he got dropped off at this place out in the forest, so his parent, I don't know, the people could go party, or I don't know if they were working or what, but he was alone. They dropped him off there with some cousins of his, little kids. And he was so sad. He was feeling really abandoned and sad. He was crying, and I think he was only 7 years old or something. And this tree spoke to him. And the tree said, "Don't cry, little boy. I'm here. I'll take care of you." And, Charlie was 80-something years old, and he still told that story in his sweat lodges and in his circles where he would talk to people. They like to tell lots of stories, and that's how they teach people, the old school Native Americans. So, we are in communication with all life, and it doesn't have to be in the English language. It could be a breeze in the leaves. Pine trees are the tree of peace. If you ever sat underneath a pine tree and just listened to the breeze in there, it is so peaceful. It's very, very soothing. So, okay, so let's go back. I'm going to talk. Oh, I know. Let's go into the garden. So I had some really interesting things happen in my garden this week. And it all relates to what I was just talking about. But, so I have some cabbage growing in one of my beds, and there was all these moths, the cabbage worms that eat cabbage. They can just totally decimate your cabbage. It'll be like lace. And in the past, we've tried killing them and getting a butterfly net and trying to get them and smash them, give them to the chickens and pick them off. I mean, it's a lot of work. And it generates a lot of aggression when you're trying to kill stuff, even pests in your garden. But what I did this year was I decided, since I'm all on this nourishing thing, that trying to get you guys to realize how important it is to nourish ourselves, our bodies, our physical beings, our temples. So I decided, and I had read this somewhere, I just crossed my path reading about, I think it was in one of my gardening books, about instead of trying to kill the pests, just feed the plant. And I know this with kale and collard greens, that the only reason they ever get aphids is because they're not getting enough food. So you just give them kelp or some kind of nitrogen food, and they will resist the aphids. You don't have to kill them. You don't have to put soap water on them or cayenne or do any of these things, any crazy chemicals and stuff. We don't need to be killing that stuff. We just nourish the plants. So my cabbage this year started getting really eaten up by these moths and the little larvae. And I was too lazy to start picking them off or trying to battle them. So, I got the kelp out and I just started sprinkling it around, and I gave them some fish emulsion, and wow, it's amazing. They're standing up better because it's really hot right now, so they also are standing up to the heat better. We do have to shade them sometimes when it gets too hot, but we just put shade cloth up in the afternoon for them. But so it's so amazing. Like, the moths are not even coming around now, around the cabbage plants. And it's not that they're not there. They're just not interested in strong plants. So I was, me, I'm thinking about the macrocosm and the microcosm and the reflection of reality in the natural world. So what that said to me was about, and I know this in Chinese medicine, this is how we keep people strong, is by nourishing the body. We don't have to go around and like kill parasites or get rid of skin diseases or thrush in the mouth or, any kind of infections. People can just resist those things by nourishing their bodies in a good way. And, fortunately, some cultures have totally still preserved the information on how real nourishment for the men and women's bodies is supposed to be, and it has been in the past for our ancestors. So it's pretty exciting. My cabbage, I thought I was going to lose them all because they seriously started the outer leaves started looking like lace. They were so eaten up by these pests. And, I think I gave them food twice so far. And I mean, seriously, those white moths are not even flying around the plants anymore. It's amazing. And so another thing that happened was one of the bean plants, I was weeding my corn plants, which are way over my head right now. It's amazing. They're doing really good, the corn. So I accidentally pulled a little bean plant because I like to plant the beans in with the corn because they have that symbiotic relationship where the beans, the leg, or let's see, what is it called? The rhizomes of the bean plant that grow down into the earth. They're little nodules, that grow on the root system of the bean plants. Those little nodules produce nitrogen, and they feed the corn plants because the corn is very heavy feeders, just like cabbage is. So in native traditions, they would plant corn and beans together and then squash nearby too to kind of help shade. The squash's job, besides growing food, would be to shade out the weeds, because as the squash starts to grow, the weeds won't grow underneath them because they want the sunshine. And so then you cut down on your having to weed and stuff. But so anyhow, I was the squash plant's not that big right now, so we do have some weeds, so I have to pull them out because even like a lot of little weeds will take nourishment away from the corn plants. So you gotta if you want to have a good harvest, you want to pull those weeds out, even if they're little, right? Because they take a lot of nitrogen to get that the green growth going on them. So I accidentally pulled a bean plant out, and for some reason, a bunch of my bean plants didn't come up this year, so I was a little worried. I gotta plug my computer in here, my laptop, because it's running out of batteries. Hold on. So anyhow, I accidentally pulled a bean plant out, and my first inclination will be, I'll just throw it away. But I didn't. I thought, no, I'm going to see what happens. So I planted it again in the ground, and I just gave it some water, and the next day I gave it some fish emulsion, really dilute, and we've just been watering it a little extra. So, and it's coming back. So I just like to see the reflection of those kinds of actions in, how we're supporting each other to take care of ourselves. And even if it looks like we might die, or maybe we're having thoughts, because I know, I have a lot of friends, and I've talked with people on the site here, I really think that they're projecting suicide thoughts into us sometimes. And so, even if we get to that point of not wanting to live anymore, we feel like everything's like, oh, there's nothing good around me. Like this poor little bean plant had no dirt around it, which it should have had. But I put it back in, and I just took care of it, made sure, and it's growing fine. It's been about 5 days now, and it took off again. Its root system are embracing. The earth is helping it out. I'm helping it out. So I see that as kind of our job is to kind of, when one of us starts to go through that feeling of like, shit, I got yanked out of this peaceful place where I'm supposed to be thriving and finding my gifts and expressing to the world who I am, like this little bean plant. But I got yanked out. And just to use that as kind of a metaphor for, no, we can still go because people need us. We need to help each other. There's people who are going through things that we've gone through that we can help, right? With our wisdom of having gone through even these really difficult things that we've gone through, somehow we can use those things to help other people. Use those experiences that we think were bad or that were really difficult for us to get through. So in the Native American tradition, and I'm not saying that everything in Native American tradition is hunky-dory and perfect. I'm just saying this is like how the metaphors of life, so weeding those thoughts out and weeding the fears out and weeding these things that are going to suck our life force out of our minds and our gardens of our lives, right, is really, really important. We have to do that, even though they look small, because if you don't get them when they're small, they're going to grow big and they're going to be sucking even more life force out of us. So just to be, encouraging each other to be careful of the thoughts that are going through our mind, because on this women's weekend, there was this woman, she was a little bit older than me, and she was like this amazing woman, really strong and, on a really good path and helping lots of people and stuff. And she was telling me about how she was driving along one day, and she was having these really horrible, evil thoughts about herself. Like she just didn't deserve to live, that she was filthy, that she was this and that, like just loathsome, like hateful thoughts to herself. And, so that happens to the best of us. And if we can just remember our gardens, that our life is like a garden. We just need to be diligent and protect ourselves day and night. That's what one of the bottom line teachings that's been going on when I'm reading these old books. I've been reading books by Rolling Thunder, the Book of the Hopi, and I'm reading one in Spanish right now that's about this healer woman down in Mexico who, her name was Maria Sabina, and she worked with mushrooms. She took mushrooms and she would heal people. The mushrooms would speak to her through that. Some people smoke pot and do that. It's just a different tool. But anyhow, the bottom line of what they say is that we need to be protecting ourselves. We need to be conscious of protecting ourselves day and night. Okay? So what I say sometimes if I'm doing some protection work on myself is that, even if I forget, I'm still protected. If I forget that to protect myself, I'm still protected. And so I put that out to you guys, that we're all protected. So I'm looking at the chat room here, and they've tried to put shackles on our minds, and it worked for a while, but it's not working anymore. And someone's saying that they found 3 rose bushes, and they're now growing back. Yep, that's great. Creating beauty where we find them, even in, junk piles. And then as we weed those things out that we think are bad, throw them in the compost pile, because they will break down the the molecular bonds of these plants, maybe that we think are weeds, will unlock, and the elements will be released. The beneficial things that will be food for other plants. So it could even be even situations or experiences that seem like they were really difficult can be added to that compost pile, so it can start to, break down and become strength for us for the future, for helping other people out. So that's another way that I've heard that from Native American elders. They look at life like that. So we don't have to grasp on to all these horrible, traumatic things that happened to us, because they were horrible and they were traumatic. But if we allow ourselves to sort of loosen their grip on our minds, or those, unlock those shackles, so we don't have to keep perceiving that trauma and the difficulties as having us locked in. We have the keys. We have the keys. But we can unlock it, and even if it's just in our minds or we're pretending, just do it. Just try it, because it works. I was telling people about my experience being in acupuncture school when I had absolutely no money, and I just kept telling myself, if other people who don't work, they've never worked in their lives, they can come to acupuncture school. They get everything paid for, and they can eat good food. I can do that too, because I'm a good person and I believe in myself. I know I can help people, and this is what I want to do. And I swear to God, I don't know how I did it. It was a total mystery, miracle that I even got through acupuncture school. So if I can do it, you guys can do it too. Just need to think about what you want to do and go for it. That's what my dad used to tell me. He's like, Mijita, which means my little daughter in Spanish. You just think about what you really love doing, what you really want to do, like what would make you happy, and then just start taking steps towards that. So, if you like planting things and you see some dead rose bushes that look dead, just grab them and put them where you want them and start watering them like Angemus did. They come back. We have so much life force and care in us. At the that place here in California where those jerks get together and do stupid things, on the red, what is it called? That grove, Bohemian Grove. They burn an effigy to care, C-A-R-E. That's like their big ritual that they do when they get together. They might even be there right now. I don't know. But they're like all the big wigs, the Illuminati heads and blah, 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 John Kerry and the Clintons and all those jerks. They get together in the little powwow there in the Redwoods, which is really sad because it's so beautiful there, and they just ruin it with their creepy energy. So this is how they bring California down. Everybody's like, dissing Californians and blah, blah, blah. Well, there is a book out. It's an ebook. It's online, and I keep thinking I'm going to find the name of it. I'm sorry I haven't done that. But it's about how they planted the whole hippie, music scene into LA. And so this guy wrote this book about all these different sort of 60s music, the peace movement music musicians. And he goes through like tens and almost 100 different names of musicians and bands, and they were all children of high-ranking U.S. military or CIA officials. Their children are the very famous 1960s musicians from L.A. who were very high on the charts: the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the Mamas and the Papas, the Byrds, and a bunch of other bands. It's a really long book. I can't believe I even read it because it was so horrific that but it was very fascinating. David Icke actually did a whole podcast on it too. couple of years after it came out. So, anyhow, I think we're kind of getting close to the hour here, and I'm almost done. So maybe we'll just do that hour show today. So, yeah, any of you who can possibly grow food, start doing that. Just to cultivate our the life force, like the confidence as men and women to be able to nourish and to care for life. So just because they're burning that effigy of care at the Bohemian Groves, screw them. We're going to just pull that idea out of our consciousness of humanity, and they're done. It's over. Just they're gone. We have to just believe in ourselves that we're going to do something else here. We are doing something else. So there's a few things. Just the bottom line of nourishing ourselves is, I've talked about traditional foods, and so there's four basic things that you guys can start to do in your lives, and one of them, remember, is about the seeds and nuts and legumes and grains. So if you're eating any of those foods, seeds or nuts or legumes or grains, they need to be soaked before you cook them, okay? And that can also be sprouted or sourdough'd, like if you're eating grains in bread and stuff, or chapatis or whatever, you want to eat only sourdough bread, okay? And apparently it's easy to do. I've never made it. I'm not a baker, but I really like real sourdough bread. And, my husband's from Germany, and I swear to God, I went to like probably 20 different bakeries asking for real sourdough bread. They don't have it anymore. I found it at a farmer's market. This woman had a truck that she was selling bread. She was a baker, and she was selling her goods out of a truck. She had one half of a baguette left that was real sourdough, and that was it. I bought it, but bakers have stopped souring their bread. So if you know people who are making really real sourdough bread, buy it from them. Support those people who are getting back to the old ways of cooking, because that was the way that was real and that was healthy for human beings, for men and women and children. So also grains, rice and quinoa and all that stuff, beans and lentils, split peas. You want to soak them first for like long periods of time, 7 to 12 hours. And then I missed one. Is that me? All those grains and legumes. Soak them. You could put a little bit of vinegar or lemon in them. That acidic helps them to denature the what happens in those grains and legumes and seeds and nuts is that they are the reproductive part of the plant. And so if they're not organic, most chemical or most like the fertilizers and the pesticides are oil soluble. So they will go right into the oily part of the plant, which is the seeds and the grains and stuff. So you want to get organic. And then the reason why, even if they are organic, they need to be soaked or sprouted or soured is because there's a natural fungicide and bacterial acide or whatever. They're chemicals in the plant to protect the seed, right, from any kind of infestation. And they're natural, but you still don't want to eat them, because the effect of those things in our bodies, in human bodies, is that it prevents us from absorbing nutrients, absorbing minerals from our other food. So this has been found in laboratories. The scientists are getting to this. It's real. So you need to soak everything, all that stuff, before you eat it. And then, so if you look in nature, the birds and stuff, they don't really eat the, they'll wait, or, in nature, it's getting rained on. They don't harvest it and bring it inside and make sure it doesn't get rained on and stuff. But out in nature, the rain would naturally sprout stuff. And so it doesn't really hurt the animals to eat them. And then, so that was the first thing of healthy, nourishing our bodies, nourishing ourselves, us as men and women. So that's soaking of all those things. The other one, okay, organic food. We like that, right? You know why. The other one would be broth. So we talked about bone broth and meat stock. Contrary to popular belief, the lean meat is the stuff that you'd throw to the dogs. Okay, Native Americans, when they caught a deer, they'd throw the lean meat out to the coyotes, and they would take the meat that was around the joints that were more collagenous and had more fat on them, because that's the healthy cuts of the meat. So the big lie about meat is that, only eat lean meat. Don't eat the fat. Don't eat the skin. Chicken breasts, Well, if you're not eating organic, that's where they shoot the hormones into the chicken to keep them to grow, get them to grow faster, is right in the breast area. So, if you're going to eat non-organic chicken, get the legs or the thighs, not the wings, because that's exactly, or the breast meat. So they told us that was the healthy meat. It's a lie. The healthiest meat is the dark meat, the meat that's got the fat and the tendons and the collagenous material on it. That's the healthy stuff you want to make your soups out of. And it happens to be the cheapest cuts of the meats too. So let those rich people have those more expensive cuts, and you guys just go get the bones with a little bit of meat around it. That's the best, right? Make your soups out of. And then fermented foods. So we got the, fermented vegetables, fermented fruits, kombucha, kvass. I talked to you about that last time. Well, one of those times I talked about my favorite ferment project that I had just done, and I kind of explained it in the program. And unfortunately, the vegetables got too mushy. I don't like them mushy, and I'm sure if I was starving to death, I would eat it, and I probably just should. But it's too mushy for me, so I strained it all out, gave it to the worms in the compost pile, and the juice that's left after that fermenting project that I did with beets and cabbage. And the fermenting process is only with salt. It's not with vinegar, because vinegar will stop the fermentation of the lactobacillus, which you want in your vegetables and in your ferments. Vinegar tastes good, and a lot of kids, they only want to have vinegar pickles, but really it's better for you if you just do the fermentation process with just the salt, like really good quality salt, and very clean water, like filtered water, right? Or really good spring water. Those fermented vegetables, and if you could have any different kinds of ferments during the day, kombucha, sauerkraut or kvass, or, fermented milk products. If you have raw milk, you want to include that too. Yeah. So anybody that that's doing these things, it's got cottage industries, it's really good to support them. Buy their products. Don't believe in scarcity. Don't believe in, that you can't afford it, that you have to be cheap. They have to not feed yourself, because that's the lies that they've taught us, that we're not worth spending our hard work money on ourselves. And we are. So I told you guys about the logo that they have on Walmart trucks here. It's completely wrong. It says, save money and live better. It's completely, money is a hologram, and we just need to use it as a resource to make ourselves happy. It's a resource to get things for ourselves that we need and that we want to create to nourish peace, right? Nourish life. And so we want to keep ourselves healthy and alive so we can help other people. We help ourselves first. And then because the fact they have used food as a weapon to starve people out. I have a ton of friends who are vegetarians, and I just love them to pieces. But it's like if your body is not getting the proper building blocks, like the proteins and stuff, to rebuild tissue and to help, like any kind of damage or something, like if you get a bruise or a cut or twist something, you don't have the building blocks to fix it. And so the body will start taking nourishment out of the bones to do only just natural metabolic functions in the body to fulfill those functions. If people are starving themselves through these starvation diets, aka veganism, sorry guys, if anybody's a vegan, I don't want to step on your toes or be rude, but it's not a viable diet for a long term. If you're trying to detox, or you're really toxic, or you've got cancer, you want to change your diet, you probably want to do those diets for a while to clean up. But then you have to start nourishing yourselves. So nourishing traditions. Check out the Weston A. Price Foundation. I always harping on them, but they're a really good resource. So you just go to westonaprice.org. Spending our energy and our focus and our intentions and our resources that we work hard for on nourishing us, right? Nourishing our body temple. We don't want to be starving ourselves because we have the keys, and and plus then you turn around and you look at, okay, where am I getting these things? Do you want to be part of that whole industrial complex that those Anunnaki jerks, set up, where they're torturing animals and being, we've all seen those movies about how horrific those industries can be. So finding farmers who are living close to the earth. Darby, that's exactly right. The Creator has given us everything we need: the earth, the wind, the fire, and the water. That's totally true. It's all here for us. We don't have to starve ourselves out. We don't have to believe in death. Death does not exist. It doesn't. I can say I've been reading all these old books, and Don Juan, of the Carlos Castaneda books, he would go up to the plants when he was gathering herbs out in the forest or out in the open. He would make prayers to the plants. He didn't just go up and yank the herbs off. He would ask permission to use some of them for his medicine, and he would make a prayer to this plant that someday he was going to lay his body down in the ground and become food for these plants' relatives. And so it's like honoring that. No fear. There's no fear of death. Okay, what does death mean? He's just going to become part of the world. The world, we are part of the world. So they instill this fear of death through all this torture and technology that they do to animals. We don't have to participate in that. So by finding, farmers and, young kids that are going back and trying to make a go of it, even if it's more expensive, go and support them, give them your hard-earned money so you could buy good food for yourself and your family. Don't believe in their lies. That economy or the scarcity and the I can't afford it is a big fat lie, right? Because we can't afford it, and we can be healthy. We have to really do the work though, and turn off the TV, turn off their bullshit thoughts that they have going, they're trying to project into our minds. We don't need to take it on. Yeah, so 5G for sure. I know you guys, most of you are probably on smartphones. I don't have a smartphone. I'm on a wired connection, but is it affecting me? Probably. But I think it was Darby maybe, or I can't remember who it was, that had a really good point that I hadn't heard on the Mark Steele shows about 5G I didn't catch it, but when I think it was Darby said it in one of the shows that he was on about how 5G cannot enter into our house through the walls, but we invite it in with our Wi-Fi routers and our smartphones and smart appliances left on, because that invites that 5G, the wavelength or whatever, into our homes. And that's the only way it can get in. So, yeah, get rid of your smart appliances. My sister bought her daughter a smart washing machine, and the thing really is a piece of junk. It doesn't work very well. So hopefully my niece will get rid of it. But, turn your cell phones off and turn them on airplane mode and put them on the other side of the house when you're asleep, because even if they're off, they're still emitting stuff. I don't think that it'll track the 5G and if it's off or on airplane mode, but I don't trust them. I would keep them on the other side of the house. The handheld telephones are even worse, so get rid of those. The Wi-Fi routers, just turn them off. Ask your neighbors. If you're in an apartment building, write a little letter and send it around, and then go talk to people and say, hey, look, this is what this is doing to us. What do you think about turning your router off? I'm turning mine off so we won't get more radiation. It's hard for people to grasp this stuff if they're not woken up yet, but we got to start somewhere reaching out. So anyway, looking at the chat room. So I'm going to just end by, I guess I went over an hour, but that's okay. There's a few things in Chinese medicine that's this time of year, we're starting to go from the hot part of summer into the fall. Like the days are already getting a little bit shorter. It's probably not as hot as it was. But there's certain things that you can do to sort of help prepare yourself in between summer and fall. Because in the fall time is when the dryness comes, and we can get sick in the fall, right? So one good thing to nourish yourself, to strengthen yourself, your body, this time of year, because we're kind of like in that juxtaposition time from the summer, we're just starting to move towards fall. I mean, it still feels like summer, but we're going, a little bit towards fall. So there's things called moxa, and I don't know if you guys know where that is, or if you have Chinatowns where you live, and it's spelled M-O-X-A. That's the shortened form, but I'm going to put this in the chat room here. So it's moxibustion, M-O-X-A-B-U-S-T-I-O-N. I think that's how you spell it. It's in the chat room. That's a Chinese technique of warming up points, acupuncture points or acupressure points, to strengthen you. So I'm going to just give the names of the points here. One of them is Ren. You can look these up. You Google them. Ren 4, Ren 8, and Ren 6. Those are really good points to moxa. So what you do with moxibustion, it's mugwort. That's the name of the herb. They powder it. They just kind of like blend it up, and it turns into this punky kind of powder. And they roll it into a tube, into a stick that looks like a cigar, and it burns like a cigar. So you want to light a candle and get that moxa stick. You can get them in Chinatown, and this would be a really good thing for you guys to have. This is really good medicine. It's super cheap and really easy to do, and it's amazing medicine. Okay, so if you don't have a Chinatown near where you live, or you can't find Chinese stuff, you might be able to find it online. If not, talk to me. I might be coming to Europe soon, so I could bring some and send them to you or something. They're super cheap. They're really, really cheap. It would be like less than $1 for a stick, and that would last you for many hours. So you light that moxa stick, okay? It looks like a cigar. It's going to burn like a cigar, so be very careful not to touch it to your skin, okay? I only burned one person. That was me. I've been doing this for 20 years. So I'm glad if I had to burn someone, I burned me, and I know that I'm never going to burn anybody again. So you want to moxa these points. Google them. Ren 4, Ren 8, and Ren 6. They're on your belly, on the lower, like right around the navel and down lower. So that's going to help strengthen your chi, your life force, strengthen your kidneys, and help your digestion out, and help your blood get strong. Okay. So if you're so inclined to try something, you can get a moxa stick, light it in a candle, because if you're using a lighter, it'll take a long time. You'll use up all your lighter fluid. And then you get it going good, and you just hold it about an inch or an inch and a half above these points on the belly, right? There's another point called stomach, STOMACH, stomach 36, and that one's on the leg. And that's a really good one to moxa at this time too. It's going to help your digestion, help your blood get strong, and sort of shift gears for the colder weather coming in later on in the year. It's really, these points right here would be really, really helpful for getting you strong for moving into fall and into the winter, so you don't get sick. Okay, get you strong. That's what we want to do here, is get ourselves strong. We got a lot of work to do, guys. So yeah. So, and then to put the moxa stick out, it's like a cigar. You don't put it in water because it'll just tear it apart faster. You want to get a little cup with some dirt or sand or salt in it, and you can just put it out into that, like just smudge it out straight in there. So that's the best way to put that out. And then you can just use it again later. So you want to do that like once a day or twice a day. Preferably if you're not sick, right? If you're sick, talk to me. I'll tell you if it's appropriate or not. But if you're not sick, this is a really good way to get yourself strong. Okay, strengthen your immune system, your kidneys, your digestion, your energy level. Keep you strong for going into that time of year that we're coming up on. This time of year also, it's really good to do is some foot baths. So you can either do foot baths like warm water with Celtic sea salt or some apple cider vinegar. You can use dandelions if you still have dandelions around. Just grab a whole bunch of them, like a big bunch, like maybe 40 leaves or something, and kind of simmer them for a little while in some water. Then you want to cool it down, either put some cool water in it or something, and soak your feet in that. It's really, really good. You can do that with seaweed too. And that will help with all those things that I mentioned. Will help with athlete's foot, which this time of year tends to get a little bit worse because we've been walking around with no shoes, and it's hot and getting damp, and sometimes people get athlete's foot. So doing those foot baths with there was more herbs listed in this article that I was reading, a Chinese article, but I don't think you can find them in the Western world. So dandelion was one of the herbs, so you could just get a whole bunch of dandelions and make the foot bath out of that, or seaweed. So probably put like a cup of seaweed if you could find some dried seaweed or powdered or granules. Just put them in some hot water and let your feet soak in there. It could be cool. You can let it cool down if it's too hot out. This is not comfortable, but just make it comfortable for you. If it's cold, make it warmer. You want to get that warmth in you too. So, and then I guess I'm done. How good Red's there, so I'm almost done here. It's about 20 after the hour. So what I want to leave you with is something that I've been working on myself. And I know that this woman that I told you about at this weekend, that when she was having those really terrible, almost suicidal thoughts, this is kind of what came to me about that. That if we start to worry too much about outside events, like we're watching the news or listening to their horrible, what they call news, and there's another, way that they mess with our minds. They call it news. Like there's nothing new about these stories that they're telling us. It's the same stories over and over and over. They just change a few little details and some names in a place, like all these shootings. I don't know if they're real, but anyhow, just to not get caught up in that emotional field that they're trying to keep us in, because they are trying to harvest. This is a Native American teachings too. The old guys, not these days, they don't talk like this anymore, but the old ones that have already crossed over. I've had the amazing fortune to hang out with some really cool old Indians. That there's this layer, and David Icke, like he's right. there's this layer, and he calls it like the fourth dimension, where they're hanging out and they're just feeding off of our, I'm not going to use the word negative, they're feeding off of this yuck that they keep us in with their stupid lies. Yeah, Red, new lies. Yep, it's the new, I call it the olds, It's like the old, instead of the new, there's nothing new about it. It's old. It's an old story. So we need to find out, we need to know what's going on, but at the same time, we need to consciously say, okay, we're going to step onto a different track, like a parallel reality, where we're going to just create what we want, and we're going to believe in ourselves. So that's why I think, Nourishing Traditions, I like that name better. So the time is right now to focus inwards and to focus on our own lives, our families, our health, our friends, and taking care, and investing in ourselves, in our own health. And then from there, that we can project out a different future. They have us believing in this whole Armageddon BS, because look at the Islam, the three major religions, Judaism and Christianity, they all came from that same story of Armageddon. So, we're just going to say, no, we're not doing that. We're going to get together, help each other out. That's why I'm doing this show. I just want to share some of this stuff. If I maybe know something that you guys can benefit from, I'm really glad for that. And I just want to, really honor this intelligence and this strength of all of us here on People for People Radio. It's just an amazing place to be, and I want to give great thanks to Guise and to Red for producing and figuring out, troubleshooting everything that's going on. Hey, there's Lizzie, yay. And Vanessa, who's really diligent about being there as the backdrop and the support for relaying communications and stuff. And because that's what it's about. It's about communicating our strengths and our hopes and our prayers for the future, for ourselves, right? We don't really want to die. The natural inclination of human beings is to live. And so, so I just really appreciate all of your guys' intelligence and your comments and your inspirations to help, to help us get through this time. It's in that Mayan calendar, the 26,000 year cycle. They said it was in 2012, but it's a blip in time. 20 or 100 years is just a little blip in time in that spectrum of understanding of these cycles. And we have a chance right now. We are in the thick of it, where we have a chance. And this is in the book of Hopi. If you want to read that book, it's very metaphorical and it's hard to understand. This is my third time reading it. But right now is the changing of those cycles, and it's time that we as humanity, as men and women and people who inhabit this earth, have the potential to pull out of that paradigm, because that paradigm has been on this planet for a long, long time. And, finding things to laugh about and joke about. Hey, where's those jokes about the melons, Angimus? Sorry. But I kind of got a clue what they were going to be about. But so finding things to laugh about and to, have fun and, don't get all bogged down in all this horrible shit that they're trying to get us to think about all the time. At the very end of this Women's Weekend, they start talking about all these shootings. There was apparently one yesterday, one the day before, and one the day before that. And we had this amazing weekend, and they started talking about these shootings, and I just got up and left the room. I'm like, I'm not talking about that. Somebody's orchestrating that, and I'm not having anything to do with it in any way, shape, or form. You're not going to bring me down, my energy level down, to talk about that crap after this beautiful weekend that we had, So, realizing that we have the power to inhabit the domains of our thoughts and wishes and our inclination towards life, towards caring for each other and for ourselves. So, yeah, for our bodies and these divine temples that we got lent for a little while. So I just want to leave you guys with that, and thank you so much for being on the show in the chat room. And yeah, I really enjoy your presence, even though, like I've said before, I don't know if I probably wouldn't recognize any of you on the street, but I feel like I know you and that we have a really good rapport and a really good, just way of reaching out and being together. And so, they separated our cultures and our, families and stuff, but we have this internet and they thought we were going to be all messed up on the internet, but no, we found a way to create life and to create fun and to make connections in a good way. So, yeah, I love you guys, and thanks again for being here. Okay, have sweet dreams, you guys over there in Scotland and England and Ireland. I love you, and have a good night, okay?